Tom stood near the window of the space station, watching the dark sky filled with stars. It had been a quiet day. He was a repair engineer, and most of his work was done. The station floated near Saturn, far from Earth, far from war, far from memories. He sipped his warm tea when the alarm beeped. "Unknown ship entering dock area," said the calm voice of the station AI. Tom frowned. No one was expected. He walked toward the control screen and saw a small silver ship slowly connecting with Dock 3. Its design was not human. Smooth lines. Soft glow, almost like it was alive. He pressed the come button. "Unidentified vessel, this is Station Kappa. Please confirm identity." No answer. Then the dock lights turned green. The ship had connected. The air pressure matched. The outer door opened. Tom grabbed his jacket and rushed toward Dock 3. He moved quickly through the long metal halls. Heart beating faster, who would? Arrive without warning? As the inner door opened, he stopped. A tall woman stood there. Her skin was a soft silver blue, her eyes bright like twin suns. Her long dark hair moved slightly, even though there was no wind. She wore a long white robe with golden lines running across it. Tom blinked. His voice almost broke. "Lyra?" She stepped forward, her face calm but her eyes filled with something deep. "You promised we'd marry," she said softly. Tom froze. He remembered that voice. That face. That name. 10 years ago, he was part of a peace mission to a planet called Solari. He was young, full of dreams. Solari was a beautiful world, full of light and nature. The mission was simple: help the alien people rebuild after a long war. Tom stayed there for months. He worked with engineers, he taught. He learned. And during that time, he met her Lyra. She was kind, gentle, always asking questions. She followed him, helped him, learned from him. They spent days in the forests, nights under glowing trees, talking about stars and life. One night, she had cried. Her people were losing hope. Tom, trying to comfort her, held her hand and said, with a smile, "When peace comes back, we'll marry." That's a promise. He had said it like a joke. A way to give her hope. He never thought she took it seriously. Now she stood in front of him, unchanged by time, looking at him with quiet strength. Tom swallowed hard. "Lyra, I didn't." She tilted her head slightly. "Your words were true to me. My people don't speak promises lightly." Tom looked down. He felt guilt rise inside him. For her, that one sentence had meaning. For him, it had been comfort, nothing more. But still, something inside him whispered, "You did care for her." He motioned for her to come inside. "Let's talk." "You traveled a long way." She stepped into the station. The airlock closed behind her. She looked around the clean metal walls and blinking lights, so different from Solari. She said softly. They walked to the small lounge. Tom made her some tea. She sat, graceful, calm. He sat across her, hands shaking slightly. "Why now?" he asked. Lyra looked at him, her eyes glowing gently. "Because my people are in danger again. The old peace is breaking. I remembered your promise, not just for me but for hope." Tom frowned. "Hope? Yes, when you were on Solari you helped heal. You brought tools, ideas, light. People called you the light bringer. When you left, many cried. But I waited." She paused. "I told the elders, I said, Tom will return." He promised, and they believed. Tom looked away. The stars outside blinked slowly, like silent watchers. "Lyra, 10 years have passed. I didn't know you took it so deeply." "I did," she said simply, "but not just because of your words. Because I saw your heart. I saw your kindness. You are not like the others." Silence filled the room. Tom breathed slowly. "So what happens now?" "Come with me," Lyra said. "Come. Back to Solari. See what your promise means. If your heart says no, I won't stop you." But I had to come. I had to ask. Tom stood up and walked to the window. He looked at the stars again. 10 years ago, he was just a helper, a visitor on a strange world. But to her, he was more. To her people, he was a symbol. He didn't know what to feel. Was it love? Was it duty? Or was it something deeper, something human? He turned around and looked at her. She was still sitting, calm, waiting. "All right," he said slowly. "I'll come. But I need answers, and I need time." Lyra stood, her eyes shining with relief. "You shall have both." As they walked back toward the dock, Tom felt something change inside him. The stars were still cold, but his heart was warm again. Somewhere, far away, an old promise was waiting to be kept. Tom sat quietly in his small room aboard the space station. The lights were dim. The stars outside glowed softly through the glass window. Everything felt peaceful, yet his heart was not. Lyra was sleeping in the guest room. Her ship was parked. In Dock 3, she had not said much after they decided to talk later. But her last words kept echoing in Tom's mind. "You promised." Tom rubbed his hands together slowly. He wasn't a bad man. He never meant to lie. Back then, on Solari, he had only wanted to bring comfort. He remembered her face on that night, sad. Scared, but hopeful. He had told her they would marry once peace returned. It was not a real promise, he had thought. Just something kind to say. But for her, it had been real. He got up, poured himself some water, and sat down again. Memories came back like waves. 10 years ago, Solari, the forests of Solari, had glowed with soft green light. Trees taller than buildings swayed in the wind. Their leaves gave off a golden mist. Tom had walked through the woods with Lyra beside him. She had been asking questions about Earth, about machines, about music and food. She was full of wonder. When he showed her how to fix water pipes, her eyes had lit up like stars. One evening, after a hard day's work, they had sat by a crystal lake. The moon of Solari was shining above them. She had told him how her people used to live in harmony. But after the war, hope was lost. She had looked into his eyes and whispered, "Will peace ever come back?" Tom, moved by her pain and beauty, had gently held her hand and smiled. "Yes, and when it does, we'll marry. That's a promise." She had smiled for the first time in days. Now, 10 years later, she had returned to remind him of that moment. The next morning, Tom found her waiting at the control center. She looked peaceful, as if she had been awake for hours. "Did you sleep?" "Well?" Tom asked. "Yes," Lyra said. "Your station is quiet." "I like that." Tom nodded and sat down beside her. "Lyra, I want to understand. What does my promise mean to you?" She looked at him gently. "To my people, a promise is sacred. Especially when made under the moon. We don't take words lightly. When you said we'd marry, I knew you meant to give me hope. But hope is powerful. It kept me going." Tom looked down. "I didn't know your people took it that seriously." "You were kind," she said. "You didn't know our ways, but your heart was honest. That's why I believed you." He sighed. "But I left. I didn't return." "You waited all this time?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes. I trained to be a guide, a voice for peace. When trouble came again, I remembered you. I told the elders. They said, 'Bring him back. Maybe the Lightbringer still lives.'" Tom's chest tightened. "That name, the Lightbringer. I was just an engineer." "You were more," Lyra said. "You showed us that humans could care. That humans could help without asking for anything." He was quiet for a moment. "And now?" "Why do you want me back?" Lyra stood up and looked out the window. "Because peace is breaking again. A group from the northern lands wants to rule. They don't trust Earth. They think the old alliance was a lie. But if you return, if you stand with me, it will show them hope is real." Tom stood beside her. "And the marriage?" She turned. "To him, it is part of it, yes, a symbol, but more than that. It is something I still wish for. Not just for my people, for me. Tom took a step back. His thoughts raced. Could he really go back? Could he marry someone from another world? Even if she was kind, even if he once cared for her. Was that love or just memory? He sighed again. Lyra, I don't know what I feel. I remember you, yes, and I respect you. But this is all so sudden. She gave a small smile. I understand. I do not want to trap you. That is why I came. Myself, I wanted you to see me again, not just the past. Tom looked at her carefully. She had changed in some ways, more confident, stronger. But her spirit was the same. Kind, thoughtful, gentle. She had crossed the stars not to force him, but to ask him. And he remembered how lonely he had been all these years. Later that day, Tom walked along the observation deck. He stood by the window, hands behind his back. The AI voice spoke softly. Incoming message from Earth Command. Do you wish to respond? No, Tom said quietly. Lyra joined him. What are you thinking? She asked. I'm thinking, he said, about the meaning of promises. And second chances. Lyra waited. Tom turned to her. Let's go to Solari. I need to see it again. I need to understand what it is I gave you and what I left behind. Her smile returned, full and bright. Then come, she said. I will show you everything. As they walked to the ship, Tom felt nervous. But beneath that, something else was growing, something soft, something real. Not fear. Hope. Tom stood at the edge of Dock 3, a small travel bag in his hand. He had packed only what he needed: tools, a few clothes, and an old photo from the Solari mission years ago. It was a picture of him standing beside Lyra and two other engineers. Under the bright trees of her world. Now, he was going back. Lyra stood at the ship's ramp, waiting for him. She looked calm as always, but Tom noticed something soft in her eyes. Maybe relief. Maybe quiet happiness. He stepped inside her ship. The doors closed behind him with a gentle hiss. The ship was different from Earth designs. It felt like walking into a forest made of light and metal. The walls were smooth and curved. Lights moved like flowing water along the surface. It had no buttons or loud machines. Everything responded to touch and thought. It's peaceful, Tom said, looking around. Lyra smiled. We believe travel should not feel like war. It should feel like home. Tom nodded. They walked into the main chamber. The chairs were soft, shaped like flower petals. A window above showed the stars outside. The ship began to move, pulling away from the station, flying silently into deep space. Tom sat down, still unsure how to feel. Lyra sat beside him. It will take us 2 days to reach Solari, she said. Time moves differently near your Saturn station, but the space between our worlds is short. Tom looked out the window. Stars stretched across the black sky like tiny fires. I didn't think I'd ever see your world again, he said. And yet you're coming back, Lyra replied gently. Hours passed quietly. The ship moved smoothly through the dark. Tom spent time exploring. There was a small room for rest, a place for food, and a glowing map of space. The ship responded to Lyra's voice. When she sang softly, the lights dimmed and the air changed to smell like flowers. In the evening, they sat together in the main chamber. Lyra offered Tom a Solari drink, a warm liquid with a sweet, earthy taste. What happened after I left? Tom asked. Lyra leaned back, thinking. After you left, the rebuilding continued. Your machines helped us clean water and grow crops faster. The children you taught still remember you. But not all was easy. Some tribes in the north began to turn away. They said Earth helped too much, that we had lost our old ways. Tom frowned. But we only came to help. Yes, Lyra said. And many were thankful. But fear grows where memory fades. The northern lands now say your promise to me was just another trick, that you never meant it, that Earth cannot be trusted. Tom looked down. So if I return, and if I keep my promise, it could bring peace again? Yes, Lyra said. You are a bridge, not just between people. Between past and future. That night, Tom couldn't sleep. He lay in the soft Solari bed, looking at the curved ceiling above him. His thoughts were full of memories. He remembered walking through Solari forests, showing children how to fix solar panels. He remembered laughing with Lyra near a river, teaching her how to cook human food. He remembered her crying once, and how he said those simple words to make her smile again. We'll marry when peace comes. He didn't know those words would last forever in her heart. Now, he wondered, had he meant them, even a little? The next day, as the ship neared Solari, Tom stood by the front window. The planet came into view, green, blue, and gold. It looked like a living jewel. Clouds moved slowly over large forests. Rivers sparkled like silver lines. 3 moons hung nearby, each glowing softly. It's still beautiful, Tom whispered. Lyra stood beside him. Yes, but not all is calm. We must go to the capital first. The council waits for you. The ship moved lower, cutting through clouds. Small villages appeared below, houses shaped like shells and flowers, built into the hills and trees. Children looked up and pointed. Elders stood still as the ship passed. Tom felt their eyes on him. The ship landed in a quiet garden full of blue flowers. The air was warm and sweet. Tom stepped out, feeling the soft grass under his boots. People began to gather, young, old, tall, short. All had the same silver-blue skin as Lyra and soft glowing eyes. They looked at him not with fear, but with hope. An elder stepped forward. He had white hair and a long robe made of golden threads. You have returned, the elder said in a deep voice. Tom bowed his head slightly. I'm not sure if I deserve your welcome. The elder smiled. You came back when asked. That is enough for now. Lyra stood close to Tom. Her hand gently touched his arm. They remember you, Tom, even those who doubt. But now you must show them your heart. Later, Tom was taken to a round hall made of crystal and vines. The council members sat in a circle. Some looked pleased. Others looked unsure. One of them, a tall man with sharp eyes, spoke first. You made a promise 10 years ago. Do you remember it? Tom nodded slowly. Yes, I said I'd marry Lyra when peace returned. Did you mean it? Another member asked. Tom looked at Lyra, then at the council. I said it to give hope. At the time, I didn't know your ways. But I see now that my words mattered. They gave strength. And if keeping that promise means peace, then I want to understand what it truly means. The council whispered among themselves. Lyra spoke clearly. He comes not with force, but with a wish to learn. Let us show him our world again. Tom was allowed to stay in the village. The next days would decide what happened next. Marriage, peace, or war. Everything was connected now. As Tom walked through the garden that evening, a group of children ran up to him. Lightbringer. Is it really you? One of them asked. Tom smiled. I used to be. Maybe I can be again. Above them, the stars began to shine, and the planet of Solari waited to test the promise that once seemed like a dream. The morning on Solari was warm. The air smelled like flowers, and soft blue light passed through the tall trees. Tom stood near a clear pond, washing his face. Birds flew above, their wings glowing like small lanterns, but peace was only on the outside. Inside Tom's heart, many questions moved like a storm. Lyra joined him by the pond. She was holding a small basket with fruits. Did you rest well? She asked. Tom nodded. Yes, but my mind is still busy. I feel like I'm standing in the middle of something very big. Something I don't understand fully. Lyra offered him a bright orange fruit. Then today I will show you the truth. They walked through the village, past children playing with floating lights and workers building new homes from tree bark and stone. Everyone they passed greeted Tom with a soft nod or smile. After some time, they reached a tall building made of glass and vines. It was the Hall of Memory. Inside, the air was quiet. The walls showed move-in pictures, memories from the past. Tom saw images of Solari long ago, wide cities, laughing people, beautiful music. Then the war came. The lights shifted. Images of burning forests, falling towers, and crying faces appeared. Tom watched in silence as he saw the pain Lyra's people had lived through. He saw machines attacking villages, fire spreading across fields, and leaders standing in anger. Who started the war? Tom asked softly. Lyra pointed to an image of an old leader. Many believe the northern tribes wanted more power. They did not like the peace talks with Earth. They feared your machines and ideas would change our ways too quickly. Tom saw a picture of himself young, smiling, surrounded by children. It was part of the memory wall. That's me, he whispered. Lyra smiled gently. Yes, you helped us rebuild. You made bridges. But when you left, the bridges began to break. They walked deeper into the hall. Another image appeared, this one newer. It showed armed groups, wearing dark clothes, marching through fields. Who are they? Tom asked. The Broken Path, Lyra answered. They come from the north. They believe in old ways and want to rule Solari. They say the promise you made to me was a trick, a way to control us. Tom frowned. I never wanted to control anyone. I know, Lyra said, but not everyone understands that. After leaving the hall, they met with the village elders. Again, the same white-haired elder from the landing day stood up. We must tell you something important, he said. The Broken Path plans to attack soon. They believe you will not honor your promise. They plan to prove your words are false. Tom looked around the circle of faces. And if I do honor it? He asked. Then you become a living promise. The elder said, your marriage to Lyra would not just be a union between two people. It would be a message to all of Solari that peace is possible, that humans and Solari can live as one. Tom felt pressure in his chest. It was a heavy thought. He had always believed in peace, but now his name, his words, his life were at the center of it. What if I'm not ready? He asked quietly. The elder nodded slowly. Then we must prepare for war. That night, Tom walked alone through the glowing trees. The wind was gentle. He heard small animals moving in the grass. The stars above were bigger here, brighter. Lyra found him again. She stood beside him without speaking. Tom finally said, Lyra, do you want this marriage? Or is it just about peace? She looked at him, her eyes calm but deep. I want both. I want peace for my people, but I also want you. Not because you are human, not because of your machines, but because you once held my hand and gave me hope. And even now, I see that same light in you. Tom looked into her eyes. He saw no pressure, no force. Just truth. He took a deep breath. I'm still afraid, but I think I'm starting to remember what I felt back then. Lyra smiled. That is enough for now. The next day, a small flying creature arrived with a message. It was a drone from the northern tribes. A message played in the air as it hovered. A tall man with silver hair appeared in the light. This is Relo of the Broken Path. We see the human has returned. But words are not enough. If he does not speak his truth before our circle, we will come. And we will take back what is ours. The message ended. Everyone turned to Tom. He stood still, thinking. Then he said, I will speak to them. That evening, Tom sat with Lyra outside her home. She gave him a thin book, his own journal from 10 years ago. He flipped through the pages, notes, sketches, thoughts. He had written one sentence on the last page. Sometimes helping someone else is what saves you. He smiled a little. Lyra pointed to the sky. Tomorrow we fly north. Tom closed the journal. Then let's show them the truth. As the stars blinked above Solari, Tom felt something inside him changing. He had come thinking the past was just memory. But now, it was becoming something real. Not a duty, not a burden, but a chance. A second chance to keep a promise, and maybe. The sun was rising when Tom stood beside Lyra, ready for the journey to the north. Her ship stood quietly in the garden, wings open like a resting bird. The sky above was clear, painted in soft pink and blue, but Tom's heart wasn't calm. He felt heavy inside. Not because of fear from the broken path, but because of the choice he had to make. A choice between old words and a new future. A promise once made without knowing its weight, and now standing before him like a doorway. Lyra gently touched his arm. "Are you sure?" she asked. Tom looked at her. "No, but I want to understand. I want to see with my own eyes before I decide." "Anything," she nodded. "Then let us fly." Their ship lifted into the morning air. It moved fast, silent like a shadow. Forests and rivers passed below, then great hills and wide open plains. The peaceful green land slowly changed. Trees grew thinner, the colors darker. Villages were rare here. The air felt colder. After 2 hours, the northern lands came into view. Sharp mountains stood in the distance, their tops covered in silver mist. Below them, a village stood surrounded by tall towers and wide stone walls. Unlike the peaceful round homes of Lyra's people, these buildings were straight, strong, and gray. Tom felt the change. The ship landed near a small open square. People had already gathered. Their eyes were harder, their clothes simpler. Most looked older, tougher. A group of guards stood by a tall man with silver hair. His eyes were sharp, and he held a long staff, made of dark metal. This was Rilo, the leader of the broken path. Tom stepped down from the ship beside Lyra. The wind blew gently, but the air felt tight. Rilo raised his voice. "You are the one they call the Lightbringer?" Tom nodded. "My name is Tom. I came in peace." "Peace?" Rilo repeated, his voice filled with doubt. "You promised our sister Lyra a union. Then you left and never returned. And now, after 10 long years, you come back wearing old words like armor. Do you think we are fools?" Tom took a deep breath. "I didn't come to lie. Back then, I didn't know how much my words meant. But now I do. That's why I came back to understand, to decide with truth." The people murmured. Rilo stared at Tom. "Words are easy," he said. "But our people live with the results of broken ones." Lyra stepped forward. "He has come with respect. Let him speak." Rilo looked at Tom again. "Very well. You may walk our land, see our people. Then you will speak before us in 2 days, and your truth will guide what comes next." Tom and Lyra were taken to a small home made of stone and clay. It was quiet. Cold wind passed through the open windows. Outside, children played, but they didn't laugh much. Tom watched from the doorway. "They don't smile like the others," he said. Lyra nodded. "They have known only fear and survival. For them, peace is just a word." Over the next day, Tom walked through the northern village. He saw strong men building tools with metal hands. He saw women weaving cloth beside fires. He saw old ones sitting in silence, watching the skies. He spoke to many. Most were polite but unsure. Some still blamed Earth for past changes. Others remembered him from stories, but those stories had become old. In the evening, Tom sat near a quiet stream outside the village. The sky above was dark, stars blinking like silent watchers. Lyra sat beside him. "What do you see in their eyes?" she asked. Tom replied softly, "Pain, anger, but also something else. A small light. Maybe. They want something more. They just don't believe it's real." He pulled out his old journal and opened it. "Back then," he said, "I came with machines, with ideas, but I didn't really listen. I thought I was helping. Maybe I was. But now, I see listening is also helping." Lyra smiled gently. "You are not the same man from before." Tom looked at her. "No, I'm not, and that's what scares me. I don't know if I'm the person your people think I am. I'm just me." She touched his hand. "That's all I ever wanted. Not a hero. Just you." The next morning, Tom walked again. This time, he helped fix a broken water pipe in the village square. He showed a group of teens how to use small earth tools from his bag. They watched, then copied him, and soon they smiled. Even a few guards nodded quietly. Later, a small girl came to him with a flower. She offered it silently. Tom took it, smiled, and placed it behind his ear. The people around chuckled for the first time. It was a small moment, but it mattered. That night, Tom sat alone under the stars. He thought of Earth, of the quiet space station near Saturn, of the peaceful life he had built. But then he thought of Solari's forests, the laughter of children, Lyra's calm voice, her eyes waiting, not with pressure, but with quiet hope, a life with meaning, a promise not forgotten. And suddenly, he realized he was already changing, not because of pressure, because of choice. He closed his eyes, breathed in the cool night air, and whispered to himself, "Maybe I'm ready to become more than I was." The sun rose slowly over the northern mountains, spreading golden light across the quiet village. Birds flew in wide circles above the stone towers, and soft wind moved through the trees. It was a calm morning, but everyone knew the day was important. Today, Tom would speak before the Northern Council. Today, he would tell them the truth about his promise. His words could bring peace or break it again. Inside the stone house, Tom stood in front of a small mirror. He wore simple clothes made from Solari cloth. Lyra stood behind him, gently fixing the fold of his robe. "Are you ready?" she asked. Tom looked at her in the mirror. Her face was calm, but her eyes held deep meaning. "I think I am," he said. "But no matter what happens today, I want you to know this. I didn't just come back because of duty. I came back because I couldn't forget you." Lyra smiled softly. "Then speak with your heart. That is all I've ever asked." The village square was filled with people. Elders sat on stone benches in a wide circle. Around them stood men, women, and children from the northern lands. They watched silently as Tom stepped forward. Rilo, the leader of the broken path, stood with his staff beside the council. His eyes were cold, but he said nothing yet. Tom took a deep breath and looked around. Then he spoke. 10 years ago, I came to Solari to help. I was young. I didn't understand your ways. I said things I thought were kind, not knowing how deeply your people feel words." He paused. "I told Lyra that when peace returned, we would marry. At the time, I thought it was just a way to give her hope. But to her and to all of you, it became a promise." Some of the elders nodded. "I left, and I didn't return. For years, I thought my job was done. But when Lyra stood before me again and reminded me of my words, I saw the truth." Tom looked at the people directly. "I made a promise, yes. But more than that, I gave something even stronger, trust. And now, I want to honor it, not just with words, but with my life. If my return and my union with Lyra can bring peace, then I give my answer now." He turned to Lyra, who had just stepped beside him. He took her hand. "Yes, I will marry you. Not because of pressure, not because of duty, but because I choose to, with all my heart." The crowd gasped softly. For a moment, there was deep silence. Then, the oldest elder stood and raised his hand. "The circle accepts your words," he said. "Let peace begin." The people began to cheer. Some cried. Even the guards lowered their weapons. Lyra's eyes were shining, and Tom felt warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in years. But just as the sound of joy filled the air, a sharp noise cut through the crowd. Boom! A loud explosion came from the village gate. Smoke rose into the sky. People screamed Dot from the forest near the village. Figures in dark clothes rushed forward. They were a small group from a radical part of the Broken Path, not under Relo's command. They believed no union with humans should ever be accepted. They carried shock weapons and smoke grenades. Chaos broke out. Tom quickly pulled Lyra behind him. Get to cover, he shouted. Guards ran toward the attackers, trying to protect the people. The elders were rushed into safety. Tom didn't have a weapon, but he didn't run. He saw a group of children trapped near a broken wall. Smoke covered the area, and sparks flew around them. He ran, using parts from his tool bag. Tom quickly activated a small shield drone he had kept from Earth. It wasn't meant for war, but it could create a short energy barrier. He placed it in front of the children and shouted, "Stay behind this." Then he turned and ran toward the fire, where a storage hut was about to collapse. A guard was trapped under wooden beams. Tom didn't hesitate. He grabbed a metal pole and used it to lift the heavy beam just enough for the guard to crawl out. Behind him, Lyra was helping elders escape through a back path. She moved fast, shouting directions. Her voice was strong, calm, full of leadership. Relo, standing with a group of guards, saw everything. He watched as Tom risked his life, not for glory, not for attention, but simply to help. Finally, after long minutes, the guards captured the last of the attackers. The fire was put out. The wounded were helped. And the square was quiet again. Later, as the smoke cleared, the people gathered once more. Tom's clothes were dirty. His hands were scratched. But he was standing tall. Lyra came beside him, her face proud. Relo stepped forward. His eyes, once cold, were now thoughtful. "You had no reason to stay during the attack," he said, "but you did. You saved our children. You helped our wounded. You protected even those who doubted you." Tom simply nodded. "I didn't come to be a hero. I came to keep my promise." Relo looked at him for a long moment. Then he stepped forward and took Tom's hand in both of his. "Then I believe. Your heart is true. Let the ceremony begin again." The crowd cheered, louder than before. That night, under the twin moons of Solari, the wedding began. It was not grand or full of gold. It was simple, pure, held in the heart of the forest, where glowing flowers lit the path. Tom and Lyra stood before the people, holding hands. The elder raised his voice. "Let this union be the symbol of peace. Not just between two people, but between two worlds." As Tom looked into Lyra's eyes, he no longer felt fear. The soft glow of dawn spread slowly across Solari's sky. The light touched the tall trees and the blue flowers, making them shine like stars on the ground. The village was calm, but the air was filled with new hope. Tom stood beside Lyra in the heart of the forest, where their wedding had taken place the night before. The celebration was over, but the feeling of peace still remained. He looked at her, her silver blue skin shining softly in the morning light, her eyes bright with quiet joy. "We did it," Tom said softly. "Together," Lyra smiled. "Yes, together." The days after the wedding passed quickly. Tom and Lyra worked side by side, helping the northern tribes and the southern villages rebuild trust. They held meetings, shared meals, and listened to stories. The people started to see that the promise made long ago was more than words. It was a beginning. One afternoon, Tom walked through a small northern village with Lyra. Children ran to greet them, their laughter ringing like bells. An old man approached Tom. His face was weathered, but his eyes were kind. "Lightbringer," he said with a small smile. "You have brought something new here. Not just machines or tools, but hope." Tom nodded humbly. "I'm glad to help." The man looked at Lyra and then back to Tom. "You two together, you show us that different worlds can live as one." That evening, Tom and Lyra stood on a hill overlooking the lands they had traveled. The forest stretched wide, the rivers glittered in the sunset, and small villages dotted the green. Tom took Lyra's hand. "I never imagined my life would lead me here," he said. Not just to a new world, but to you. Lyra squeezed his hand gently. Promises are not just about words, she said. They are about what we build after them. Tom looked at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. I'm ready now. Ready to build that future with you. Weeks passed. The peace talks between the northern tribes and the southern villages grew stronger. Leaders met with Tom and Lyra's support, sharing food and stories instead of weapons. The broken path slowly changed. Many of its members chose peace over conflict. The scars of the past remained, but healing had begun. Tom often thought about Earth. He missed the quiet of space and the familiar blue planet. But here, on Solari, he found something new: family, purpose, and love. One clear night, he stood beside Lyra near the crystal lake. The moon shone brightly above. Do you ever think about going back? Lyra asked. Tom smiled. Sometimes. But this is where I belong now. She leaned on his shoulder. Then let us build a new home together. Months later, a small spacecraft arrived at the northern village. It was a message from Earth News of a new peace mission. With more helpers ready to join. Tom stood beside Lyra as the ship landed. The people gathered to welcome the new visitors. The future looked brighter than ever. As the sun set on Solari, Tom and Lyra stood hand in hand before the people who had become their family. We promised to keep peace alive, Tom said. To build a world where different hearts can beat as one. Lyra smiled at him. Together, we will make that promise real. The crowd cheered. And under the stars, two worlds began to unite.